Living with integrity means acknowledging your mistakes honestly while refusing to let them diminish your inherent worth. You can hold both truths simultaneously. You've caused harm, and you're worthy of love and redemption. Right now, as you listen to these words, your body is carrying stories from your past. Not just memories in your mind, but actual emotional imprints stored in your tissues, your nervous system, and your cellular memory. Research from 2019 reveals that emotional repression doesn't just hurt our hearts, it literally weakens our immune system. But here's the empowering truth. You have the power to release what no longer serves you. Whether you're carrying childhood wounds, relationship trauma, or the weight of past mistakes, this audiobook will show you how to transform your relationship with your emotional history. We'll explore both the cutting-edge science of emotional healing and the timeless spiritual wisdom of letting go. In the next minutes, you'll discover practical techniques that work on both mental and physical levels, understand the stages of emotional healing, and learn to view your emotions as messengers rather than enemies. By the end, you'll have a complete toolkit for emotional freedom. Think of this journey as learning a new language, the language of your inner world. Just as you wouldn't judge yourself for not speaking fluent French after one lesson, please be patient as you develop fluency in emotional awareness and release. Your willingness to listen is already the first step toward transformation. Chapter 1. The Body Remembers. Understanding Emotional Storage. Imagine carrying an invisible backpack everywhere you go. With each difficult experience, another stone gets added to this pack. Over the years, the weight becomes so familiar that you forget you're carrying it at all. This is precisely what happens with emotional storage in your body. Scientists have discovered that emotions create actual physical changes in our tissues. When you experience fear, anger, or sadness, stress hormones flood your system, creating tension patterns that can become permanent fixtures in your facial system. The connective tissue that wraps around every muscle, organ, and bone in your body. Dr. Candace Pert's groundbreaking research revealed that emotional information is stored in receptor sites throughout our bodies, not just in our brains. This means your hip might hold anger from a betrayal 5 years ago, while your shoulders carry the weight of shouldering too much responsibility. Your jaw might clench with words you never spoke, and your chest might feel tight with grief you've been avoiding. This explains why traditional talk therapy, while valuable, sometimes feels incomplete. You can understand your emotions intellectually, analyze their origins, and develop coping strategies, yet still feel stuck. That's because thinking your way out of emotional patterns rarely addresses the physical component of where these emotions live. Consider chronic pain that has no clear medical cause, or that persistent feeling of anxiety even when life seems stable. These often represent emotional storage that your body is trying to communicate. Your tissues become librarians of your emotional history, filing away experiences you weren't ready to process at the time. The fascinating part is that your body wants to heal. It's constantly working to restore balance and release what doesn't belong. But it needs your conscious participation. When you learn to listen to these physical messages with curiosity rather than resistance, you open the door to profound healing. Your nervous system, designed to protect you, sometimes gets stuck in old patterns. A smell, a tone of voice, or even a particular time of day can trigger responses that belong to past situations. Your body is responding to a memory as if it's happening right now. Understanding this connection empowers you to work with your body rather than against it. Instead of viewing physical symptoms as annoyances to be silenced, you can begin to see them as important communications from your inner wisdom. Chapter 2. The Awareness Awakening. Naming your inner landscape. Most people live with their emotions the way they live with background music, aware something's playing, but not really listening to the melody. Developing emotional awareness is like turning up the volume and learning to identify each instrument in the orchestra of your inner experience. UCLA research from 2007 revealed something remarkable. Simply labeling an emotion reduces its intensity, by up to 30%. When you say, "I'm feeling frustrated," instead of just experiencing a vague sense of agitation, your brain literally calms down. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, becomes more active while the amygdala, your emotional alarm system, settles. But awareness goes deeper than naming. It involves developing what therapists call felt sense, the ability to notice where emotions live in your body. Close your eyes for a moment and scan from the top of your head to your toes. What do you notice? Perhaps tension in your forehead, a tight feeling in your chest, or an uncomfortable sensation in your stomach. These physical sensations are your emotions speaking in their native language. A knot in your throat might be unexpressed words. A heavy feeling in your chest could be unexpressed grief. Butterfly sensations in your stomach might signal excitement or anxiety, emotions that feel surprisingly similar in the body. Most people confuse thinking about emotions with actually feeling them. When someone asks how you feel, you might respond with, "I think I'm upset because..." But thinking about being upset and feeling upset are entirely different experiences. Thinking happens in your head, while feeling happens throughout your entire body. Creating your personal emotion vocabulary helps bridge this gap. Instead of defaulting to fine, good, or bad, experiment with more specific words. Are you disappointed, frustrated, or overwhelmed? Each carries different information and calls for different responses. Practice the emotion weather report technique. Several times throughout your day, pause and ask yourself, "What's the weather like inside me right now?" Perhaps you're experiencing a light drizzle of sadness, a thunderstorm of anger, or sunshine moments of joy. This playful approach removes judgment while increasing awareness. Notice the difference between primary and secondary emotions. Primary emotions are your immediate, authentic responses. Secondary emotions are often reactions to your primary emotions. You might feel hurt by someone's comment, but then feel angry at yourself for being hurt. The hurt is primary and contains valuable information. The self-anger is secondary and often less helpful. Your body's wisdom operates below the level of conscious thought. Learning to tune into these subtle signals gives you early warning systems for stress, helps you recognize your authentic needs, and guides you toward what truly nourishes you. This awareness isn't about constant emotional analysis or becoming hypersensitive. It's about developing a friendly relationship with your inner world, treating your emotions as valuable data rather than inconvenient interruptions. Chapter 3. Regulating the Storm, Calming Your Nervous System. Your nervous system is like a sophisticated security system, constantly scanning for threats and adjusting your body's responses accordingly. But sometimes this system gets stuck in alarm mode, treating your own emotions as dangers to be feared rather than experiences to be felt. Understanding your window of tolerance changes everything. This concept, developed by Dr. Dan Siegel, describes the zone where you can experience emotions without becoming overwhelmed or shutting down. Inside this window, you remain present, curious, and capable of learning. Outside it, you either become hyper-aroused, anxious, agitated, reactive, or hypo-aroused, numb, disconnected, depressed. Think of emotional healing like learning to swim in increasingly deeper waters. You wouldn't start in the ocean during a storm. First, you need to feel safe in the shallow end of the pool. Nervous system regulation creates that safety. Your vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve, acts as a bridge between your brain and body. When activated properly, it triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest, digest, and heal mode. This is where transformation happens. The simplest way to activate this healing state involves your breath. Not just any breathing, but specific patterns that signal safety to your nervous system. Try this. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. The longer exhale tells your body that you're safe enough to release. Box breathing creates even deeper regulation. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold empty for 4. Repeat this pattern for 2 minutes, and you'll notice your heart rate slowing, your mind clearing, and your body softening. Progressive muscle relaxation works with your body's natural tension patterns. Starting with your toes, deliberately tense each muscle group for 5 seconds, then release. Notice the contrast between tension and relaxation. This teaches your nervous system the difference between stress and calm. Cold water on your wrists or face immediately activates your dive response, triggering parasympathetic activation. Your nervous system interprets cold water as a signal to slow down and conserve energy. Humming, singing, or making vowel sounds stimulates your vagus nerve through vibration. Ancient cultures understood this. That's why chanting, singing, and prayer have been healing practices for millennia. Movement that crosses the midline of your body helps integrate your nervous system. Simple movements like marching in place while touching opposite hand to knee help your brain hemispheres communicate more effectively, creating external safety supports internal regulation. This might mean clearing clutter from your space, establishing boundaries with difficult people, or developing routines that provide predictability and comfort. Remember that regulation isn't about never feeling difficult emotions. It's about expanding your capacity to feel them without being overwhelmed. A regulated nervous system can hold more emotion, not less. Your nervous system learns through repetition. Each time you practice these regulation techniques, you're literally rewiring your brain for greater resilience and emotional flexibility. Chapter 4. The Sacred Expression, Giving Voice to Your Pain. Emotions are energy in motion, and like any energy, they need pathways for expression. When we block emotional expression, we create internal pressure that eventually manifests as physical symptoms, relationship problems, or explosive outbursts. But expression doesn't mean acting out destructively. There's a profound difference between expressing anger and being aggressive, between feeling sadness and wallowing in despair. Sacred expression honors the emotion while maintaining consciousness and choice. Your voice carries tremendous healing power. The soapbox method creates a safe container for emotional expression. Find a private space where you can speak freely. Imagine you're standing on a soapbox, addressing someone who hurt you, or expressing feelings you've never voiced. Say everything you need to say as loudly or softly as feels right. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between real and imagined expression. It simply releases the held energy. Writing serves as another powerful channel for emotional release. Stream of consciousness writing, where you write continuously without editing or censoring, allows emotions to flow through your pen onto paper. Set a timer for 10 minutes and write about whatever emotions are present. Don't worry about grammar, spelling, or making sense. This isn't about creating literature. It's about creating release. The body holds emotions that words sometimes can't reach. Movement expression taps into this nonverbal emotional language. Put on music that matches your emotional state. If you're angry, choose something intense. If you're sad, select something that honors that feeling. Then move however your body wants to move. Punch pillows, dance wildly, or move slowly and deliberately. Let your body express what your mind struggles to articulate. Breath work, specifically designed for emotional release, can move tremendous amounts of stuck energy. Connected breathing in and out without pauses. For 20 minutes can bring up and move through emotions that have been buried for years. This powerful technique should be practiced with guidance initially, as it can surface intense feelings. Art provides another pathway for wordless expression. You don't need artistic skill. You need willingness to let your emotions create. Choose colors that represent your feelings and let them interact on paper. Sculpt with clay, letting your hands shape what your heart holds. These creative expressions often reveal insights that talking never touches. Sound healing uses your voice as a tool for release. Sighing, groaning, screaming into pillows, or making whatever sounds want to emerge all help move emotional energy. Ancient cultures understood that sound heals. That's why we naturally sigh when stressed or groan when overwhelmed. The key to sacred expression lies in intention and consciousness. You're not trying to hurt yourself or others. nor are you indulging in emotional drama. You're consciously creating space for feelings to be witnessed, honored, and released. Remember that emotions often need to be expressed multiple times before they fully clear. One crying session doesn't necessarily heal years of grief. Be patient with the process and trust that each expression session moves you closer to emotional freedom. Chapter 5. The Message Within: Decoding Emotional Wisdom. Every emotion carries information as precise as GPS coordinates, guiding you toward what you need for healing and growth. Learning to decode these messages transforms your relationship with difficult feelings from resistance to curiosity. Anger signals that something important to you has been threatened or violated. Instead of judging anger as bad, ask what it's protecting. Perhaps your boundaries have been crossed, your values compromised, or your needs ignored. Anger often masks hurt or fear, but it also contains tremendous energy for positive change when channeled consciously. Sadness indicates loss and calls for grieving. This emotion helps you release attachments that no longer serve you and create space for new growth. Cultures that honor grief understand its cleansing properties. Sadness isn't depression. It's a healthy response to life's inevitable losses and changes. Fear alerts you to perceived danger and activates your survival mechanisms. But in modern life, fear often signals growth opportunities rather than actual threats. When fear arises around a decision or opportunity, examine whether it's protecting you from genuine danger or from expansion beyond your comfort zone. Guilt suggests you've acted against your values or hurt someone you care about. This emotion can guide you toward making amends and realigning with your authentic self. But guilt that lingers without action becomes toxic shame, which serves no constructive purpose. Anxiety often contains excitement wearing a disguise. Both emotions create similar physical sensations. Increased heart rate, butterflies, heightened awareness. The difference lies in your interpretation. Anxiety says something bad might happen, while excitement says something significant is about to occur. Shame whispers that you're fundamentally flawed, but often points to areas where you've internalized others' judgments rather than forming your own values. Shame dissolves when exposed to compassionate understanding and authentic connection. Joy isn't just a nice feeling. It's information about what aligns with your authentic self. Pay attention to what brings you genuine joy, not just temporary pleasure. These moments reveal your values, passions, and life direction. Primary emotions, your immediate, instinctive responses, contain the clearest messages. Secondary emotions often represent judgments about your primary emotions and can cloud the original message. If you're angry about being sad, the sadness holds the information, not the anger about the sadness. Emotions often travel in clusters. Grief might contain anger at what was lost, fear about the future, and gratitude for what was shared. Instead of trying to feel one emotion at a time, notice how different feelings can coexist and complement each other. Your emotional patterns reveal themes in your life. If you frequently feel overwhelmed, you might be taking on too much responsibility. If you often feel disappointed, you might have unrealistic expectations or be looking for fulfillment in external circumstances. Body sensations provide additional information. Emotions that create expansion in your chest often indicate alignment with your truth. Feelings that create contraction might signal misalignment or self-protection. Your body's wisdom operates faster than your thinking mind. Trust your emotional intelligence, your innate ability to read and respond to emotional information. This intelligence has guided humans for millennia and remains one of your most sophisticated navigation systems. Learning to dialogue with your emotions transforms them from overwhelming forces into trusted advisors. When a difficult emotion arises, try asking, "What are you trying to tell me? What do you need? How can I honor your message while taking care of myself?" This approach doesn't mean emotions are always accurate or that you should act on every feeling. It means treating your emotional life as a source of wisdom rather than a problem to be solved. When you honor emotions as messengers, they're more likely to deliver their information and move on, rather than intensifying to get your attention. Your emotions are ultimately calling you home to yourself, to your authentic needs, values, and truth. When you learn their language, you gain access to an internal guidance system more sophisticated than any external advice. Chapter 6. Shadow Work: Embracing Your Hidden Self. Carl Jung once said that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your shadow isn't evil. It's simply the parts of yourself you've learned to hide, deny, or reject. These hidden aspects hold both your deepest wounds and your greatest untapped power. Think about the person who annoys you most. What specific qualities trigger your strongest reactions? That intensity reveals something important. We're rarely triggered by traits that are completely foreign to us. Instead, we react most strongly to qualities we possess but have disowned, either because they were criticized in childhood or because they don't fit our idealized self-image. Your shadow often contains the emotions you were taught were unacceptable. Perhaps anger wasn't allowed in your family, so you learned to suppress it so completely that you can't access it even when it would serve you. Maybe vulnerability was seen as weakness, so you've hidden your tender feelings even from yourself. These rejected parts don't disappear. They go underground, influencing your behavior in unconscious ways. Shadow work begins with curiosity rather than judgment. When someone triggers you, pause and ask, what quality am I seeing in them that I might possess but have rejected in myself? This doesn't mean you need to express these qualities in the same way they do, but recognizing them as part of your human wholeness begins the integration process. The mirror exercise reveals shadow projections with startling clarity. Look at yourself in a mirror and speak aloud the criticism you'd make about someone who triggers you. Notice what happens in your body. Often, you'll feel the truth of these words applying to yourself in some way. This isn't about self-attack. It's about reclaiming disowned parts of your psyche. Dreams frequently present shadow material through characters you dislike or situations that disturb you. Keep a dream journal and pay attention to the figures who appear. What qualities do they embody? How might these represent aspects of yourself seeking integration? Your greatest irritations often point toward your greatest gifts. If you're constantly annoyed by people who are too sensitive, you might be rejecting your own emotional intelligence. If you judge others for being selfish, you might need to reclaim healthy self-care. The intensity of your judgment often matches the potential power of that disowned quality. Childhood adaptations create many shadow aspects. If you were the good child who never caused trouble, your rebellious nature might be in shadow. If you were the family clown, your serious, contemplative side might be hidden. These adaptations served you then, but may be limiting you now. Integration doesn't mean acting out every impulse or adopting every quality you've rejected. It means acknowledging these aspects as part of your human complexity and choosing consciously how to express them. You can own your capacity for anger without becoming aggressive. You can embrace your vulnerability without becoming a victim. Active imagination allows safe exploration of shadow aspects. In meditation or journaling, have conversations with the parts of yourself you've disowned. What do they need? What wisdom do they offer? What would happen if you welcome them back into your conscious awareness? The shadow often holds your creative power, passion, and authentic self-expression. When you reclaim these aspects, you access energy that's been locked away. This is why shadow work often leads to increased vitality, creativity, and personal power. Remember that everyone has a shadow. It's part of being human. The goal isn't to eliminate it, but to develop a conscious relationship with all aspects of yourself. When you stop fighting parts of your nature, you free up tremendous energy for healing and growth. As we reclaim our shadow, we often discover our inner child needs attention. Chapter 7. Inner Child Healing: Nurturing Your Wounded Heart. Inside every adult lives the child you once were, with their dreams, hurts, and unmet needs still very much alive. Your inner child isn't a metaphor or psychological concept. It's a real part of your psyche that influences your emotions, relationships, and life choices every single day. Childhood experiences literally shape your nervous system and emotional patterns. Before age 7, your brain operates primarily in theta waves, a highly suggestible state where you absorb everything around you without the filters of critical thinking. Whatever messages you received about yourself, love, safety, and the world became your operating system. These early imprints create what psychologists call implicit memories, body-based memories that influence your present experience without conscious awareness. If you felt unsafe as a child, your nervous system might still scan for danger, even in secure situations. If your emotions were dismissed or punished, you might automatically suppress feelings before even recognizing them. Your emotional triggers often carry your inner child's voice. When someone's tone reminds you of criticism you received decades ago, when rejection feels life-threatening, or when you react with surprising intensity to seemingly small slights, your inner child is responding from old wounds that never fully healed. But your inner child also holds your capacity for joy, wonder, creativity, and authentic self-expression. These qualities don't disappear with age. They get buried under layers of conditioning and survival strategies. Healing your inner child restores access to these essential parts of yourself. Inner child dialogue creates conscious connection with these younger aspects of yourself. Find a quiet space and imagine sitting with yourself at different ages, perhaps at 5, 8, or 12. Ask what they needed but didn't receive. Listen without trying to fix or explain away their feelings. Simply witness their experience with compassion. Often, your inner child carries specific messages they needed to hear. You're safe now. Your feelings matter. You're lovable exactly as you are. It wasn't your fault. Speak these words to the child within you, noticing how your body responds to receiving this long overdue care. The reparenting process involves giving yourself what you needed but didn't receive. If you lacked emotional safety, you can learn to create internal security through self-soothing practices. If you weren't seen or celebrated, you can acknowledge your own accomplishments and growth. If you weren't allowed to have needs, you can practice identifying and honoring what you need now. Generational patterns often pass down through families like invisible inheritances. The way your parents related to emotions, handled conflict, and expressed love likely mirrors their own childhood experiences. Understanding these patterns with compassion helps you make different choices rather than unconsciously repeating them. Your inner child often communicates through body sensations and impulses. A sudden urge to hide might signal your child's fear. An impulse to please everyone could reflect your child's strategy for earning love. A feeling of not belonging might echo your child's experience of being different or misunderstood. Play and creativity serve as direct pathways to inner child healing. Engage in activities you loved as a child, drawing, dancing, singing, or simply being in nature. Notice what brings you pure joy without purpose or productivity. This isn't childish. It's accessing vital aspects of yourself. Setting boundaries often requires inner child healing because many people learn to sacrifice their needs to maintain relationships. When you learn to advocate for your inner child's needs, you develop the capacity to create healthier adult relationships based on mutual respect rather than old survival patterns. Grieving becomes essential when you recognize what your inner child didn't receive. This grief isn't self-pity. It's honoring the reality of your experience and making space for healing. You can grieve the childhood you didn't have while appreciating the resilience that helped you survive. Your wounded child also developed incredible strengths. Perhaps early challenges taught you empathy, resilience, or independence. Acknowledging these gifts alongside the wounds creates a more complete picture of your journey. The goal isn't to return to childhood, but to integrate your child's wisdom into your adult life. When your inner child feels heard and cared for, they stop running your life in the shadows and instead contribute their gifts, spontaneity, authenticity, creativity, and the capacity for wonder. Healing your inner child opens the door to profound self-compassion. Chapter 8. The art of self-compassion, becoming your own ally. If you spoke to your best friend the way you speak to yourself in your head, how long would that friendship last? For most people, the answer is uncomfortable because we've learned to be our own harshest critics, believing that self-attack motivates improvement. Research reveals the opposite. Self-compassion actually enhances performance, resilience, and emotional well-being far more effectively than self-criticism. Dr. Kristen Neff's groundbreaking research identifies 3 essential components of self-compassion: mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. Mindfulness means observing your experience without getting caught in the drama of self-judgment. Common humanity recognizes that struggle and imperfection are part of the shared human experience, not personal failures. Self-kindness involves treating yourself with the same gentleness you'd offer a good friend. Your inner critic developed as a protection mechanism, often echoing voices from your past that were meant to keep you safe, loved, or successful. But this internal voice frequently becomes more harsh than any external critic ever was. Learning to recognize the difference between your authentic inner wisdom and your conditioned inner critic becomes essential for emotional healing. The inner critic often disguises itself as motivation, whispering that you need to be harder on yourself to achieve your goals. But research consistently shows that self-compassion leads to greater motivation, not less. When you're not afraid of your own reaction to failure, you're more willing to take healthy risks and learn from mistakes. Notice the tone and language of your internal dialogue. Would you speak to a 5-year-old the way you speak to yourself? Would you tell a struggling friend that they're worthless, lazy, or hopeless? The inner critic often uses absolute language. Always, never, completely, totally. That leaves no room for the complexity of human experience. The best friend technique transforms your relationship with self-criticism. When you notice harsh self-judgment arising, pause and ask, what would I say to my best friend if they were experiencing this same situation? Then offer yourself those same words of understanding, encouragement, and support. Self-compassion doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook or avoiding responsibility. It means responding to your mistakes and struggles with wisdom rather than punishment. When a child spills milk, a wise parent helps them clean it up and learn to be more careful, rather than screaming about what a terrible person they are. You can offer yourself this same wise guidance. Your body responds to self-compassion by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the same physiological state that promotes healing, learning, and emotional regulation. Self-attack, conversely, triggers stress responses that actually impair your ability to make positive changes. Developing a compassionate inner voice takes practice because most people have decades of conditioning in self-criticism. Start by simply noticing when you're being harsh with yourself. You don't need to change the voice immediately. Awareness is the first step. Often, just recognizing, oh, there's my inner critic begins to create space between you and these automatic thoughts. Self-compassion becomes especially important during emotional healing because the process often involves facing painful feelings and memories. If you attack yourself for having these emotions or judge yourself for struggling, you create additional layers of suffering on top of the original pain. The loving kindness meditation specifically cultivates self-compassion. Begin by placing your hand on your heart and saying, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. May I be free from suffering." Notice any resistance to offering yourself these wishes. This resistance reveals how much healing is needed in your relationship with yourself. Physical gestures support emotional self-compassion. Placing your hand on your heart, giving yourself a gentle hug, or even stroking your own arm activates the mammalian caregiving system. These simple touches signal safety and comfort to your nervous system. Remember that self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. It's not telling yourself that everything you do is perfect or avoiding necessary changes. True self-compassion sees clearly, accepts what is, and responds with wisdom and kindness. It's the foundation from which all other healing grows. When you become your own ally rather than your own enemy, You create internal safety that allows deeper exploration and transformation. You stop needing to defend against your own attacks and can use that energy for growth and healing instead. With self-compassion as our foundation, we can begin making peace with our past. Chapter 9. Making Peace with Mistakes, the Alchemy of Forgiveness. Your mistakes are not evidence of your unworthiness. They're proof of your humanity and courage to engage fully with life. Every person who has ever accomplished anything meaningful has also made spectacular errors along the way. The difference between those who thrive and those who remain stuck isn't the absence of mistakes, but the ability to transform errors into wisdom. Guilt serves an important function when it motivates positive change and repair. But guilt that lingers without action becomes toxic shame, which serves no constructive purpose. Healthy guilt says, I did something wrong and I can make it right. Toxic shame whispers, I am fundamentally wrong and nothing can fix me. The most profound mistakes often carry the most valuable lessons. That relationship that ended badly might have taught you about your attachment patterns and communication style. The job you lost might have redirected you toward work that better matches your values. The financial mistake might have taught you about impulsive decision-making and the importance of patience. Making amends when possible serves both justice and healing. This doesn't mean accepting blame for everything or staying in harmful relationships. It means taking responsibility for your part in situations and offering repair when appropriate. Sometimes the person you wronged isn't available or receptive to amends. In these cases, you can make living amends by changing your behavior and perhaps helping others who face similar situations. But the deepest healing often requires forgiving yourself for mistakes where amends aren't possible or sufficient. This self-forgiveness isn't about pretending your actions didn't matter or avoiding consequences. It's about recognizing that holding on to self-punishment serves no one and prevents you from becoming the person capable of making better choices. Your younger self made decisions with the awareness, skills, and emotional capacity they had at the time. This doesn't excuse harmful actions, but provides context for understanding them. That person who cheated in their relationship might have been operating from unhealed attachment wounds and poor communication skills. The parent who lost their temper might have been overwhelmed and lacking emotional regulation tools. Self-forgiveness often requires grieving who you were before you knew better. There's genuine loss in recognizing that you caused pain when you thought you were doing your best. This grief honors both your growth and the impact of your actions. Write a letter to your younger self from your current perspective. Acknowledge their struggles, fears, and limitations with compassion. Explain what you understand now that they couldn't see then. Thank them for their survival efforts, even when those efforts were imperfect. This exercise often reveals how much self-attack you've been carrying unnecessarily. Transforming guilt into wisdom requires extracting the lessons from your mistakes without remaining imprisoned by them. What did this experience teach you about your values, boundaries, or priorities? How has this mistake contributed to your empathy for others who struggle? What specific changes have you made because of this learning? Some mistakes reveal patterns that require ongoing attention. Perhaps you tend to avoid difficult conversations until they become explosive arguments. Maybe you make financial decisions when emotionally triggered. Recognizing these patterns with compassion allows you to develop strategies for making different choices in the future. Remember that forgiveness is a process, not a single decision. You might need to forgive yourself for the same mistake multiple times as you discover different layers of impact or meaning. This repetition isn't failure. It's how deep healing unfolds. Your mistakes don't define you, but they have shaped you. The person you've become includes the wisdom gained from errors, the humility learned from failure, and the compassion developed through your own imperfection. These qualities often become your greatest gifts to others who struggle with similar challenges. Living with integrity means acknowledging your mistakes honestly while refusing to let them diminish your inherent worth. You can hold both truths simultaneously. You've caused harm, and you're worthy of love and redemption. This paradox is the foundation of mature self-acceptance. When you make peace with your past mistakes, you free tremendous energy that was locked in self-attack and regret. This energy becomes available for creating positive change, building meaningful relationships, and contributing to the world in ways that honor both your growth and your humanity. As we release the past, we create space for a new way of being. Chapter 10. The New You, Living from Emotional Freedom. Emotional freedom doesn't mean never feeling difficult emotions again. It means developing such a trusting relationship with your emotional world that feelings become allies rather than enemies. You're no longer afraid of your own inner experience, and this fearlessness transforms everything about how you engage with life. The new you operates from choice rather than reaction. When someone triggers your anger, you feel the emotion fully while choosing consciously how to respond. You might express your feelings directly, take space to process, or recognize that this person's behavior reflects their own struggles and doesn't require your engagement. The emotion informs your choice without controlling it. Emotional flexibility becomes your superpower. Instead of having only one or two emotional responses available, you develop a full range of healthy expressions. You can be assertive without being aggressive, vulnerable without being victimized, and boundaried without being defensive. This flexibility allows you to meet each situation with the most appropriate response. Your relationships transform when you're no longer trying to get others to manage your emotions for you. You stop needing people to validate your feelings, make you feel worthy, or avoid topics that trigger you. This emotional self-sufficiency paradoxically creates more intimate connections because you're relating from wholeness rather than neediness. You begin attracting different people into your life because you're vibrating at a different frequency. Those who are drawn to emotional drama or dysfunction no longer find you available for those dynamics. Instead, you attract others who are also committed to growth, authenticity, and healthy relating. The way you handle conflict completely shifts. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations or exploding in reactive anger, you approach disagreements as opportunities for deeper understanding and connection. You can stay present with tension, express your truth with respect, and listen to others without immediately defending your position. Your decision-making process becomes more intuitive and aligned. Instead of making choices based on fear, obligation, or others' expectations, you consult your inner wisdom. You trust your emotional responses as valuable data while maintaining the capacity for rational analysis. This integration of heart and mind leads to decisions that feel both wise and authentic. Creating new emotional patterns requires consistent practice and patience. Your nervous system has grooved pathways for old responses, and building new pathways takes time. Celebrate small victories. The moment you pause before reacting, the time you choose vulnerability over defensiveness, or the day you comfort yourself instead of self-attacking. Daily emotional check-ins become as natural as brushing your teeth. You regularly scan your inner landscape, notice what you're feeling, and respond with appropriate care. This ongoing attention prevents emotions from building up and exploding later. You develop early warning systems for emotional overwhelm. You recognize the subtle signs that you're approaching your limits and take preventive action, scheduling downtime, asking for support, or adjusting your commitments before reaching crisis mode. Your capacity for joy expands significantly. When you're no longer afraid of difficult emotions, you also stop unconsciously limiting positive ones. You allow yourself to feel excited without waiting for the other shoe to drop, experience love without protecting against loss, and celebrate successes without minimizing them. You become a safe person for others' emotions. Your comfort with your own feelings allows others to be authentic around you. People often comment that they feel heard and understood in your presence because you're not trying to fix, judge, or change their emotional experience. Your creativity flourishes when emotional energy is no longer locked in old patterns. Art, music, writing, or whatever form of expression calls to you becomes a natural outlet for the full spectrum of human experience. Your emotional healing often becomes a gift you offer the world through your creative contributions. You understand that emotional healing is an ongoing journey rather than a destination. There will always be new situations that challenge your growth, unexpected triggers that reveal deeper layers of healing needed, and opportunities to develop greater emotional intelligence. This lifelong process becomes a source of excitement rather than frustration. The ripple effects of your emotional freedom extend far beyond your personal life. Your children, if you have them, learn healthy emotional expression by watching you. Your friends and colleagues benefit from your emotional stability and authenticity. Your community becomes a little bit healthier because you're contributing from wholeness rather than woundedness. Most importantly, you discover that you can trust yourself completely. You trust your ability to feel whatever arises, to make wise choices in difficult situations, and to repair any mistakes with grace and humility. This self-trust becomes the foundation for a life lived with courage, authenticity, and deep satisfaction. As we close this journey together, let's anchor these insights. Your emotional past doesn't have to be your emotional future. We've explored how emotions live in your body, the importance of nervous system regulation, and practical tools for release. Remember, awareness, regulation, expression, understanding, and transformation, these are your steps to freedom. The journey we've taken together reveals that emotional healing isn't about perfecting yourself or eliminating difficult feelings. It's about developing a wise, compassionate relationship with the full spectrum of human experience. You've learned that your body stores emotional memories, that awareness changes everything, and that self-compassion accelerates healing more than self-criticism ever could. Your emotions are sophisticated messengers carrying information about your needs, values, and growth edges. When you stop fighting these messages and start listening with curiosity, you gain access to internal wisdom that guides you toward authentic living. The shadow work reveals hidden parts of yourself that hold both wounds and gifts. Inner child healing reconnects you with your essence beneath all the conditioning. The techniques you've discovered. Breath work for regulation, writing for expression, body scanning for awareness, shadow dialogue for integration. These aren't just concepts, but practical tools for daily emotional navigation. Each method works because it honors the reality that emotions are whole-person experiences involving mind, body, and spirit. Making peace with your mistakes transforms guilt into wisdom and shame into self-compassion. This alchemy doesn't erase the past, but transforms your relationship with it. You become someone who learns from errors without being defined by them, who takes responsibility without self-attack, and who grows from challenges without being broken by them. The new version of yourself isn't emotionally perfect. Perfection was never the goal. Instead, you've developed emotional flexibility, the capacity to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, and the wisdom to respond rather than react. Your relationships improve because you're no longer trying to get others to manage your feelings. Your creativity expands because energy is no longer locked in old patterns. Start small. Choose one technique that resonated with you today. Whether it's the breathing exercise, emotional writing, or simply practicing self-compassion, begin there. Healing is not a destination. It's a practice of coming home to yourself. Trust the process even when it feels messy or non-linear. Emotional healing rarely follows a straight path. There will be days when old patterns resurface, when triggers catch you off guard, or when progress feels invisible. These moments aren't failures. They're opportunities to practice everything you've learned with even greater self-compassion. Your willingness to do this work matters beyond your personal healing. Every person who develops emotional intelligence and freedom contributes to the collective healing our world desperately needs. Your emotional wholeness becomes a gift to everyone whose life you touch. Remember that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling afraid and choosing love anyway. You've already demonstrated this courage by engaging with this material, by being willing to look at your emotional patterns, and by opening your heart to the possibility of healing. Your emotions are not your enemies. They're messengers guiding you toward wholeness. Trust the process, be patient with yourself, and remember that every step toward emotional freedom is a victory worth celebrating. Thank you for joining me on this journey of emotional liberation. If this audiobook has served you, please subscribe to Audiobooks Library for more transformative content. Until then, be gentle with yourself and trust your healing journey. Remember, you are worthy of emotional freedom.